3 overs as a way of describing what I think a lot of you are living with and what I'm living with. The first one is overloaded. We have too much to do. The second is overabundance. There are too many attractive educational options available. Attractive in the sense that they are very likely to be useful, but there are too many of them. And the third is overlapping paradigms. The first notion is about being overloaded. Okay, TMI, TMO, TLT stands for too much information, too many options, and too little time. It's also the initials of our organization, Teaching, Learning, and Technology. I've now decided we're either the TLT group because we're Teaching, Learning, and Technology, or, might be more accurate, too little time. And I think that's the situation. Part of it is that people in academia tend to have very high expectations of themselves and of others, but particularly of themselves, and I think the overload is in large consequence not only of the growing abundance of information and options, but that people think they're supposed to be able to keep up with it or even get ahead of it. Two of the things that I think are coming fast and beginning to make big differences and likely to make even more are what some people call Web 2.0 and cell phones. Handheld gizmos, personal digital assistants, digital cameras, small video recorders, clickers, all those things will fit in your hand, can be combined in one, and the only thing I'm pretty sure of is that the price will keep going down, the number of capabilities will keep going up, and more of them will be owned and used by an increasing percentage of the human race, especially undergraduates. And these things, for the most part, cannot be controlled or owned by a college or university. That's a big change. You can get into these new things very fast as an individual faculty member, as an individual student. The institution is very hard for an institution to have the kind of control, support, responsibility, ownership that most colleges and universities were accustomed to for this kind of thing in the past. A teaching learning paradigm is a way of thinking about education that seems to have some sort of coherence and meaning and applies to some significant set of activities in education. It has some sort of influence and applicability over a whole lot of examples. And some of the teaching learning paradigms, instructional design, authentic education, 7 principles, that learning outcomes assessment, project-based teaching and learning, information literacy, have very strong implications for some decisions about how to teach and how people learn. Many of these paradigms are not in conflict with each other, and as long as people don't bump into each other who hold these different paradigms or consider them very important, there's not much trouble, but they tend to overlap a little bit, and that's when things get a little complicated. Now, what would be wonderful is if there were some big overarching paradigm, like an overall mission or an overall goal that you could say, this is what we're really all about in improving education, improving teaching and learning, and everything else has to fit within it. But in fact, we don't have that in education. So what do you do? How do you make decisions? How do you prepare support programs? How do you decide what to invest in to help in moving forward? Has a teaching learning technology roundtable, which was an idea that emerged a little over 10 years ago with the intention of at least somewhat addressing this issue of how different people from different parts of the same institution probably have different paradigms for improving teaching and learning and providing a venue in which they can talk constructively with each other. The chances of them getting in trouble where their paradigms overlap or seem to conflict will be reduced as they figure out how to resolve those things. But that's not easy.